Hey, y'all. This is Dr. Carr, the culture docent, here to help you navigate and curate the experiences you want to have. So, welcome to our episode, Do It Anyway. It is the end of the year, and of course, you're going to see a bunch of content where people are telling you, to start making your New Year's resolutions and mapping out your 2026 and blah, 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 blah. And I am kind of adding to that conversation, but from a slightly different lens. So, today we're going to be talking about market saturation, your unique value proposition, strengthening your brand identity. So, today's episode just has a little bit of that like business school twang to it, but it all relates back to culture because, of course, that's what we talk about over here on the Culture Docent. So, have you been considering starting a business or developing an app or venturing out into your own, only really to just like stop yourself because you feel like your industry or the industry that you're trying to break into is just too crowded? I have personally. I felt that way when I started my own coaching practice. I felt like, what's the point? Everybody is a career coach. This going to even be lucrative for me? Because that is something that I wanted from that beyond helping people, right? But it just felt like, okay, I see 1,000 things about coaches, whether it's life coaches, blah, blah, blah. And it just didn't feel like I should enter into that space. Same thing with podcasts. Like, I'm going to be a podcast bro, but why, right? Everybody got a mic. Everybody can go get a mic. And shout out to Riverside FM because they definitely make it easy for you to access to enter into the world of podcasting, right? All of the tools are user friendly, they're pretty intuitive. So I will say that Riverside makes it very easy to get into the world. But again, I was a little bit hesitant to say, or a lot of bit hesitant really, of like, why should it be me, right? What is my value? What is my contribution? And I talk about that a lot, about contribution. So it is, it's when you're having these thoughts, when you're kind of stuck and a little bit of afraid, what's really underlying that fear is this thought around market saturation. So, market saturation, by definition, is the point at which a product or service has become so widely adopted in a market that the demand for it has been nearly or fully exhausted. And when the market is saturated, we really start to see some shady behavior. Okay, so monopolies, sabotage, espionage, right? Everybody's just trying to get their little edge over the competition. And for someone that is like, look, I'm just trying to start my meal prep business. I'm just trying to start my picture frame business. I'm just trying to build up my yoga practice. Thinking about all of the extra that comes with a saturated market, right, just feels very overwhelming. It doesn't feel worth it. It doesn't feel like you just want to pursue it. It's like, why should I do all that? There's already a bunch of yoga practices out there anyway. So why would mine be different? I'm not going to do it. We're going to stop you right there. We're going to stop you right there because you need to do it anyway. Do not let that fear of the market saturation stop you from entering into your greater purpose, your next career, your bigger calling, right? Just do it anyway. Do it anyway. Okay. And what's going to help you do it anyway is really building confidence in your product or your service, whatever you are trying to deliver to the people, aka your value proposition. So some people are going to say, you need to find your niche. Others say you need to find your point of view. Others say different things. Essentially, what it's going to boil down to is everyone is recommending to you, rightfully so, that you're going to do something that sets you apart and allows you to stand out from the crowd. And there are many ways to do that without being inauthentic, right? Doing things that other people are doing. And it doesn't have to be so niche that you are attempting to sell marbles to aliens and Venus, right? And that's your startup. It does not have to be that niche. You can set yourself apart in different ways that still make sense. So, rideshare, right? Rideshare, we're going to get into rideshare as like to me, one of the epitomes of like demonstrating that value proposition. And so when you are trying to stand out from the crowd, you're asking yourself, what problem am I trying to solve? And how is my solution different from what others are doing? So we take rideshare. Uber, everybody knows Uber, right? Came through in like 2009-ish, completely disrupted the market. It's now the largest ride sharing company worldwide. They have over 180 million monthly active users. They have over 6 million active drivers and couriers, right? So as a competitor or someone that's like, I want to get into the rideshare business, I think that there's something that I can offer here. How are you going to break into that space, right? You have this mammoth that's grown over time, and then there's all these other ones. So like, how are you going to get into that space? Well, there's companies that offer only green or electric vehicles, right? So that's their fleet, is this electric vehicles, or otherwise more environmentally friendly, because they are targeting those customers and those believers that are very environmental conscious, right? So that's their value proposition that they're bringing to the market. There are others that, of course, allow their drivers to keep more of their wages or all of their wages, and they get paid in a different type of system, or don't have contractors. Their drivers are actually employees of the organization. That is going to stand out to people that are really like, I believe in unions or other types of ways of supporting labor, the labor that we do and employee labor. It's also going to stand out to employees who want to work there, right? If they're like, if I went with this other rideshare service and I became a driver and I'm a contract employee, I don't have any protections, they may decide, look, I'm going over to this rideshare company because they do offer me employee protections, right? That's appealing to them. That becomes that organization's value proposition. There are other rideshare services that have only female drivers, if aligned to female passengers. You can request to have a female driver as a female passenger, right? So that was born out of, statistically, the assaults committed during ride shares. Statistically, I'm not making it up. I'm not just this is what the research shows, right? That the assaults are primarily committed by men, either as a driver or a passenger. So if you're wondering, if you identify as a woman and you're like, look, I would feel much more comfortable having a female driver, right? There is a rideshare service out there for you. Then there's companies with the fleet of driverless cars, right? There's companies that only operate in a certain segment. So they may just operate in DC because their drivers know that area, but don't cross over into Maryland or Virginia because that doesn't make sense for them, right? That is their value proposition. All those are examples of value proposition. So when it feels like you've reached saturation, the market is still open. Find your value proposition and do it anyway. Okay. And just to be clear, y'all know I reinforce this every time. I'm not speaking to a specific industry, right? So this is not just the creator economy. This is not only for those that are trying to step out and, create their own business. Some folks don't have an entrepreneurial spirit or desire. I see you, I feel you, I am you to an extent, right? Because it takes a lot to build something on your own from the ground up and try to make money from it, right? But you still need a value proposition, even if you're not doing that. If you are working in, doesn't matter what kind of organization you're in, whether you're a product manager, a software engineer, a customer success manager, a barista, it does not matter. You still need a value proposition. You need something that demonstrates, what you need to be able to demonstrate what sets you apart from the others within your field. What's your secret sauce? How do you do what you do in a way that nobody else does it? And that's going to bring us to, the last part of our conversation today. So brand identity. No matter the role or industry, right? You still have to curate your personal brand and work on your brand identity. So if your value proposition is what value are you bringing to the table, brand identity is going to be, what do you want people to know you for? how are you aligning with your value with your brand? So let's say you've finally started your decorating business, right? Yay, go you. We're going to do Cabbage Patch, raise the roof in your honor, right? So your value proposition in this instance may be that you specialize in designing home spaces aligned with feng shui, with the concept of feng shui, right? And you're all about the energy and that comes through. So your brand identity, of course, is going to include elements like your logo, your color palette, even your typography. So the fonts that you use, right? Like, and it's very interesting how many people don't realize how when you connect fonts in your mind, you absolutely know when something is a certain type of font connected to a certain brand. That's brand identity, right? Because they're using that same font, all their marketing materials. When you go to their website, it's going to be the same font on all of their products, right? And so that's something that is going to be included in that brand identity for you and your interior decorating business. But it's also going to include your social media presence or your lack thereof. There are companies that were famous for not advertising in any way, right? The only time they've been around long enough also that they don't have to advertise, that they don't have to put an ad, or what we used to call commercials, right? They don't have to put an ad out there, or they don't have to do anything on social media because people know them, right? If they choose to enter into that space as part of their brand identity, that, or to create more of a brand identity, right? That's something that is a cognitive choice. They may feel like, oh, we're trying to, or more of a strategic choice, I should say. They may be trying to reach a different audience. They may be trying to capture a different type of customer that they traditionally haven't done so in the past. And so that becomes part of, their marketing and part of their branding. But again, there are plenty of folks that's what they're known for, right? Is producing the greatest commercials during Super Bowl Sunday, and everybody's looking forward to seeing what kind of commercial they're going to come up with this year. That is their brand identity. Everyone knows them for that thing. Berkshire Hathaway, everybody knows Berkshire Hathaway, or if you don't, right, it's a conglomerate, a massive conglomerate. It's a holding company. It has a bunch of other companies and public companies and subsidiaries and all that. You may know them from real estate, or most people have heard of Warren Buffett, right? So you may have some idea about Berkshire Hathaway, but a lot of people actually recognize Berkshire Hathaway because of their website. It looks like it is straight from 1998. Like the original website. That's what it looks like. But that is a part of their brand identity, because in practice, the way they operate, the way that they interface and interact with their shareholders, right? They want things to be as simple as possible. I wouldn't even say refined, just basics, right? The fundamentals, foundational stuff. They don't need all the bells and whistles from their point of view, because they have been doing well without it, right? So if it ain't broke, why fix it? But now their website becomes constant source of sometimes criticism, but really it was just kind of a running joke, because it is so basic of a website compared to what we're used to seeing these days, right? Where there's a bunch of interface, and it may include AI or interactive chats and all that. Their website just doesn't have that. And that's part of their brand identity. So it works for them. Think about those old speaking of commercials, those old car sales commercials where, somebody popping out the trunk, somebody's on a horse, right? They're promising you that they will take any car, no matter the condition, right? If it's broke down on the side road, as long as you can get it to the lot, they're going to give you money for it, right? Some of y'all may not remember that because you are younger, but that was a thing, and you can go look up older ones on YouTube. But that was, their shtick, right? On IG, TikTok, you can see very similar today, where, the makeup artist or a fitness instructor or a hairstylist, they all have their thing to be able to say like why you should come to them. Some of them, will fake curse you out or be really mean. They use a lot of curse words as they're doing their makeup, but the makeup is flawless, right? And that's how they're getting you in there. Or there's a lot of jokes around the fitness trainers and about their clients, and that's how they pull you in there. Say like, oh, well, maybe I want to follow these videos because I'm very interested in them. Or they use like really interesting music as they do it, or ASMR, right? And so all of these things are around that brand identity. Is what's making them stand out from some of the others, even if they are all within that same type of industry. And because a lot of you are thinking, right, well, I don't have that thing, so I shouldn't start. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You do have the thing, right? You may not have found it yet, but you do have that thing. And just keep in mind, right, like those tactics, they really are marketing ploys. They're hooks that, these individuals have chosen to be a part of their brand identity. And for some ventures that some of you may be interested in, that's not required. Word of mouth may rule, right? Word of mouth may be king. Networking may still be a thing for, it's always a thing, but that may be the primary way that you get customers and bring people into the door, right? It's not the social media thing. It's, hey, I know someone who knows someone, and then they're passing, your information along within these very specific circles, because again, you have that value proposition that is appealing to that particular group. And for those of you that are trying to figure out your brand identity within your current space or within your current organization or company, wherever you're working now, and you don't, again, have a desire to be a creator or step out on your own, all right, finding your brand identity could be, or establishing your brand identity could really be like writing a white paper in the corporate consulting thought leadership. That's the word, right? Like writing something. It could be the newsletter that you write for your particular branch, and you're coming up with all of the latest trends. You have all of the information, and people start to recognize you for sharing that newsletter. It could be that when you lead an all hands meeting, or you lead the daily stand up, and you have trivia questions or a fun icebreaker. I know people hate icebreakers, but some of them can be interesting. But, maybe it's something like that. Or maybe it's just the way that it's the way that you are doing things that other people are not necessarily doing them. And that becomes a part of your brand, right? And that is going to be a part of that brand identity that you're wanting to further cultivate in a way that makes sense for you, in alignment with what you're trying to do, and making sure that your value proposition and your brand identity are matching. And so I just want y'all to remember that just because all of these marketing efforts, right, like they have the shtick, whatever, they're jumping out the back of a car, out the trunk, or they're yelling at you to use a brush and not a puff on your face for doing your concealer, whatever it is, right? Those are engagement. They can create engagement, but engagement doesn't always translate into sales, right? It can work. It doesn't always work, but it can. And again, it is going to strengthen that brand identity. But once you get people in the door, remember, it's going to be the quality and the consistency of your service or your product that matters. You could jump out of 15 cars. You could jump across, cars in a motorcycle. But if you're not delivering quality service or a quality product, that engagement is going to cease to exist. People aren't actually, buying your product or purchasing your services. And that's ultimately what you want, if that's, the game that you're playing, right? All right. So we have reached carte blanche. And this week, I am leaving you with some reflection questions. Again, as we're starting to wrap up 2026 and consider our futures, like I said, people are going to be pushing that. So I'm going to add to it a little bit. I want y'all to really do it anyway. So I have just some reflection questions, 3 of them that I want to share with you. And I want you to be thinking about them as you're kind of mapping out the next steps in your journey. So, number 1, what adventures feel most inviting to you at this moment? And what practical actions can you take to make your dreams a reality? Okay. Number 2, what thoughts or limiting beliefs are you going to let go of so that you feel more confident in defining your personal value proposition? And lastly, what do you want to be known for, and how can you start positioning yourself to be recognized for this in your respective field? So, let me know if these reflection questions are helpful and if this topic resonates with you. We have a few more episodes before we take a break. I'm very excited because we have some really great guests, but your girl is tired, so a break is coming. But I want you to know that, of course, I appreciate every listen, every question, every repost, every part of the engagement that you give me. You are absolutely appreciated, and we could not continue with the Culture Docent without you. So make sure you go and check out some folks who decided to do it anyway over on KMOB 1003's Artist Spotlight. Okay, so we regularly feature up and coming new or new to you artists across genres. And so I want to make sure that y'all are checking that out. Add some new folks to your repertoire. Don't always just use the shuffle. Make sure you're going to look at these artists and actually learn about their history and their background, because what I have found is that the more that I learn about the artist and their backstory, personality, their approach, their music, or whatever medium, honestly, learning about them really helps connect me to their art. And I'm sure that resonates for some of y'all as well. All right, y'all. I will see you Tuesday for more empowering conversations that lead to more empowered experiences. Thanks, y'all. Bye.